Hello, my name is Logan Stevenson. Today I'll be answering the question, what does the history of human evolution and adaptation tell us about modern sustainability? I will explain how humans' cultural evolution and episteme stands in direct opposition to our evolutionary episteme and what this contradiction means for sustainability. Specifically, I'll be discussing how agriculturalism, resource abundance, and animal domestication created deep evolutionary mismatches that now contribute to problems in human health, population growth, and unsustainable resource consumption. Modern sustainability challenges, overpopulation, environmental impact, and overconsumption, are largely the result of evolutionary mismatches intensified by agricultural surplus and resource prosperity. These mismatches interact with our evolutionary tendency towards hyperbolic discounting, creating contradictions between our biological impulses and modern cultural systems that now pose one of the greatest threats to long term human survival. To understand this issue, we also need to understand the feedback loop associated with human evolution. Evolution is driven through environmental factors such as bipedalism, when hominins left arboreal environments, or smaller eye orbits for hominins active in daylight hours. Cultural evolution, such as fire use, tool use, and symbolic communication, shape both the environment and how we interact with it. An example would be the emergence of lactose tolerance in modern humans. As humans developed the cultural practice of animal domestication, lactose tolerance became an evolutionary advantageous trait, as it opened a new source of nutrients. Because of this, human biological evolution reflected this advantage, leading to increased lactose tolerance. Biocultural evolution has been present since the beginning of hominin culture, but exploded with the domestication of animals and the agricultural revolution. The problem lies with the areas in which our biological evolution has failed to keep up with our cultural evolution, or evolutionary mismatching. Evolutionary mismatches occur when what was once an adaptive or desirable trait becomes maladaptive or harmful. Examples of this include the human proclivity to stockpile on sugars and fats. Before agriculture, we were coded to seek out and consume large amounts of both because they were necessary fuel for survival and in such short demand. Now, in a society where fats are no longer limited, this drive to consumption can lead to chronic disease. This also ties into hyperbolic discounting, another human trait that works against us. Humans naturally tend to favor immediate rewards. The closer the reward is to them, and the further out the greater reward is. When resources are scarce, this is beneficial. It's better to take what you know is there than to gamble on waiting for more. In a society where more is always guaranteed, though, the human tendency to focus on the immediate instead of the big picture becomes increasingly disadvantageous. The first major sustainability issue created by evolutionary mismatch is declining human health. Human ancestors were nomadic hunters, often moving to where resources were most plentiful, depending on the season, environment, and population requirements. As we have cultivated crops and livestock, humans no longer need to seek out food sources, and in combination with the principle of hyperbolic discounting and the human desire for high calorie, high fat, and high sugar foods, it leads to unbalanced diets and diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. Sedentary lifestyles exacerbate this mismatch. Without the incentive nomadic peoples had to seek out food resources, humans are increasingly likely to contain themselves to one area and to get little to no exercise. The second major issue relates to population management. Thanks to agriculture and raising livestock, humans' artificially expanded populations carry capacity, effectively allowing cities and hubs of development to grow exponentially. While this may seem like a positive at first glance, it actually results in its own series of problems. With such a drastic increase in population density, diseases manifest more frequently and spread faster. This is seen frequently in medieval fiction or historical accounts. Measles, the plague, or even the flu posed real threats to humans, especially when medicine was so early in development. In modern examples, COVID 19 shut down the world for 2 years because, when allowed to function normally, our society has constant interaction in high density environments. This continuous growth also demands land and water access, as well as the land and water necessary to expand agricultural resources adequate to supply the ever increasing population size. We see this now with the continued debates about land usage, people often venting their own frustrations about new apartments being built, as well as the cost of housing. As the population continues to grow, this issue will only expand, with costs going up and more land being delegated to homes and the farmland necessary to provide these neighborhoods with food. This leads to another significant sustainability issue, being widespread resource exploitation. Homes require lumber, leading to deforestation efforts being expanded beyond the already necessary deforestation happening to make room for farming and homes. Overfishing has significantly decreased marine populations, and not only are livestock practices generally considered unethical, they have a massive effect on greenhouse gas emissions. Our populations are growing at a rate that is unsustainable because we're running out of room, air, and resources. In conclusion, the biggest sustainability challenges facing humanity today are not an external threat, but the internal threats found within our own evolution. The modern agricultural and sedentary society that we have formed stands in direct opposition to our own evolutionary impulses, resulting in a society that is too self obsessed and too short sighted. The contradictions between our evolved biology, and our modern cultural systems, particularly the mismatch between hyperbolic discounting and resource abundance, pose the greatest threats to long term human sustainability. Addressing these challenges requires aligning our cultural choices with the biological realities shaped by millions of years of evolution. Thank you for listening.